the Dodgers are necessarily panicking at this point, but man, that is not how you wanted to open the playoffs, dropping an 11-2 game against the Diamondbacks in which Clayton Kershaw could not even get out of the first inning in that game one on Saturday. So not a good look for the Dodgers. Game 2 today against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Dodger fans, if you win today, then you kind of forget about that game 1 disaster.
Definitely. I was in the restaurant right before I was going to go to the Power Trip Festival watching the Dodgers just absolutely come apart from the very first inning. I was like, oh, no. This reminded me of when Peyton Manning pre-Super Bowl, whenever he'd make a mistake, we're like, he can't do it. And it's the same thing with Clayton. When you get to the postseason, and this is the worst of example of him melting down, it was really awful.
Yeah, it does. Obviously, it doesn't help his narrative that he's not good in the postseason. He doesn't show up in the big games, which he has. Like if you look back at history, he's had some bad games in the playoffs. He's had some decent games in the playoffs, but this obviously goes into the narrative that he's not a playoff pitcher. So not a good look for Kershaw. Not a good look for the Dodgers. But game 2 today, so they can kind of figure things out and get the series even at 1 if they win today.
Yeah, big time. I mean, eventually, people in the restaurant were like, "You got to pull him, Davey," and then he did.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh man, you had to."
Yeah, after just one out, 6 runs, 1 out, and he was done. That was his day. So, yeah, wow. Rough day for the Dodgers in that first game. One across the baseball playoffs, also in the National League, the Phillies are up 1-0 on the Braves. In the American League, the Rangers are up 2-0 on the Orioles, and the Astros and Twins are tied at 1 apiece. I feel like all these series might go the distance. I think we're going to have some really good, pretty even competitive series here in the divisional round.
Absolutely. Also, just quickly, Carlos Correa became the postseason RBI leader. I thought that was an amazing stat. I just happened to be catching the interview after the game, and I mean, they told him on the interview, and he was completely shocked, you know what I mean, to pass David Ortiz and stuff like that. He was like, wow, that's really awesome. You know what I mean? So it was kind of cool.
Yeah, those Astros have been good for a long time, Patrick. I mean, they had some really good teams. And I think Jose Altuve is like second all-time in postseason home runs or something like that. Like, we forget how long Houston was good, and now obviously Correa's doing it with the Twins now, and Altuve's still doing it with the Stros. So, yeah, man, they had a good run. Whether they're cheaters or not, they still had a good run.
Yes.
All right, let's talk some NFL. The Rams had a chance to give the Philadelphia Eagles their first loss of the season. It did not happen. Philly won 23-14, but we did see the return of Cooper Kupp, 118 receiving yards. He's going to really complement Puka Nacua. I think the receiver spots are in a good spot for Matt Stafford and the offense. But man, Philadelphia moves to 5-0 after a big win.
Yep, they do their thing. It was actually a really good game. Like you said, it was a neck-and-neck playoff type atmosphere. It seems like the Eagles and the Rams always kind of get into a duel. They must match up pretty well. But yeah, Cooper Kupp right away. He looks great. It looks like he did not miss a beat after that big injury.
Yeah, I think once we get going here and kind of, grease the wheels a little bit, Matt Stafford with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, I think that's going to be a formidable offense. But yeah, you still got to stop somebody. And I think for Philadelphia, too, they've played some close games. Remember, they barely beat the Washington Commanders in the previous week. So, it's like they're not dominating teams, but still a hallmark of a great team is you find ways to win. Whether it's pretty or not, you still get the W. They're still 5-0 any way you slice it.
We've talked about this before. If you can kind of play like crap and still win,
yeah.
I'm telling you, that's the sign of a championship team.
You're right on, Patrick. You're exactly right. So, Eagles finding a way to do that. The 49ers did not have to just squeak by it and find a way against the Cowboys. Man, they were flexing hard on the Dallas Cowboys. It was supposed to be the game of the week. It was not a game at all. The 49ers dominating Dallas 42-10. My boy George Kittle with 3 touchdown catches. Brock Purdy with 4 touchdown throws in the game. So the 49ers and the Eagles both now 5-0. The only 2 undefeated teams left in the National Football League.
Right, I know, and we're only a quarter of the way through the season and all that stuff. Nevertheless, I think Brock Purdy needs to be recognized as a pretty damn good quarterback. He looks like a point guard out there. He looks like Magic Johnson out there to me.
Yeah, some of those throws look effortless. Like I went back and watched some of the replays where they kind of slow it down, and it's like that's what it feels like. It's everything else around him slows down, and he sees everything. Right. He takes his time. Obviously, he's got good protection, and he's got great weapons to throw to. But yeah, he just seems locked in, and he just kind of sees everything unfolding on the field and makes the right decision.
And I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, he has this guy, he has that guy. He still has to make the throw, which
Yeah.
he is doing. His accuracy, it's unmatched right now. I mean, he's legitimate, and I know it's early, an MVP candidate.
Yeah. I hate those arguments, Patrick. That's a great point that, let's say, for example, the New England Patriots are awful right now. They can't score any points, but people are like, well, if you put Mac Jones in that 49ers offense, he would do the same thing. It's like, no, I don't. That's a noble fact. We don't know that. We don't know what he would do. I feel like Brock Purdy's the right guy at the right time for the 49ers.
He's throwing into some tight windows, period. It doesn't matter who he's throwing. I don't care who you put out there. He would hit him right in the face mask.
Yeah. No, I think so, man. He's locked in, and the best part of the story is he's Mr. Irrelevant. He wasn't supposed to do this. It wasn't some high draft pick with all this big expectation. He came from out of nowhere, so that makes this story a little bit sweeter.
It really does, man. It was kind of cool quickly, too, with his parents. His dad used to be a pitcher, and they really thought that he was going to be a baseball player. But his mom said, nope, he's been carrying a football. And he told them when he was 7 years old, I want to be a quarterback. So he's always wanted to be a quarterback. So he's living out his dream. It's pretty cool.
He was destined to do this, and obviously it's working out. It's working out. He's a great quarterback right now, undefeated in the regular season. And one more NFL game. This is kind of bizarre. The Jacksonville Jaguars, casual football fans might not know this, but they were in England for 2 consecutive games. And Patrick, first they beat the Buffalo Bills over there. Then they turn around and they beat the Atlanta Falcons. They're 2-0 across the pond.
Right, man. A couple of great games they've had over there. They're home away from home because of their owner and all that stuff. But they did pull it out. And look at the NFL. I mean, aren't they going to – are we having a game in Germany coming up?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, again, when you talk about international games, like the whole world plays soccer, obviously, but the whole world also plays basketball. They play baseball, but American football really, there's pockets maybe around the world, but it's not necessarily an international global game. But the NFL trying to, at least, brand, the game, brand the NFL, and have ambassadors across the world, and playing games in these other places is the best way to do that.
To hear those fans get excited about all the plays and stuff, it was really cool. It's a good feeling like, oh man, they can see it. They see what we see.
Yeah, they're getting into it, right? I'm sure there's still some people like, I don't get it. I don't understand what you guys are doing. I don't know the rules. It doesn't make any sense. But there's others who are like, okay, now I understand why the hype, why football is king in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
And real quick, don't forget, Packers Raiders tonight on Monday Night Foosball. And finally, Patrick, college football, USC, kind of like the Philadelphia Eagles, I guess. Not exactly pretty, but still getting wins. They needed triple overtime, but they beat Arizona late on Saturday night. I stayed up to see the end of that one because if USC falls, then that's going to really shake up the rankings. And whether they win or lose, I feel like they have an effect on the rankings. They continue to slide down the rankings, even though they're still undefeated. They're down to number 10 now.
Right, we're just worried about what Pep has always talked about since before the season, and that is the defense like a sieve out there at times, and that is not good for USC's chances because clearly their offense can do its thing. Clearly Lincoln Riley knows how to draw up a game plan, but it does worry you a little bit about the defense because it's so easy to think if they did have a good defense, I mean, they could go all the way.
Yeah, it's a cliche, but if you play with fire, you're going to get burned. At some point, USC's not going to find a way to, salvage a victory or, sneak out of Arizona or Arizona State with a win. These are teams that they should be dominating. These games should not be close. So the good news is they're finding ways to win. The bad news is at some point it's going to fall apart. And hopefully for USC fan, it's not going to be some huge game where you're going to find yourself on the outside of the college football playoff at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is just you got to kind of hope that maybe that defense will gel just a little bit and do enough to get the job done. Always fun to talk to Pep. We will catch up with him on Thursday. We will obviously know a lot more about a lot of things when we talk to Pep on Thursday. Tell him how to get your stuff, Pep.
Hey, Doyers, man. Hopefully on Thursday, the Doyers turn it around, so we'll find out. You get my stuff on Inland Sports, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the Inland Sports YouTube channel. Check it out. That's Inland Sports.